Yeah, so that guy, then he's like, what are these space agencies like? What are they for? And I'm like telling him that, that's just a big grift of, make work and people, like space agencies raise morale and all that crap, right? So that Sabine Hassenfelder chick made a video about that very thing. That she had published a paper. It was an op-ed in Nature magazine about how CERN was basically a boondoggle. And one of the scientists from CERN who wanted to remain anonymous wrote her a long ass email. And basically, all the things I said about why the government funds these projects, he said. And he works at CERN, which was crazy, right? I know we were talking about in reference to like space agents, but he also said this isn't the only high energy physics isn't the only field of science this is done in. Basically, admitting that it's basically to give people jobs, and that the average public doesn't know anything, but that there's a coolness factor to it, and that's why the government funds it because it's like cool, right? We're so advanced. We smash protons together at light speed. We're fucking awesome. Crazy, dude.
Right, and we were talking about this the other day with was it New Perspective or somebody about how they get these advanced degrees in fields, and then they get out into the workforce and they can't get a job, right? Because there's no application for what they have expertise in, so they have to create an industry based around it.
Yeah, dude. What, like, let's say I get a degree in high energy physics. Like what kind of particles are in the hadron jet of light speed proton smashing into a fucking light speed proton? Like, what application does that have in industry that would give you a job, right? None, right? There's like no actual application in reality for that. So all I can do is work at some government project, government funded facility, or teach in academia. But other than that, I have no choices.
Yep. There's a lot of socials, they call social scientists, the social sciences as well. Happens to them too. They have to teach. It's just no job for them.
Well, they can be social workers.
Yeah, shit kickers. But see, they don't want those kind of jobs because they feel that their intellect goes beyond that, right? Like that they're worth more than sitting there listening to some fucking dude talk about how monotonous his job is. Like his factory work, his factory job. They want to be admired for how smart they are and how well they did in school. They don't get that in those social worker jobs.
Check this out. This is going to blow your mind. I watched the video. Video is titled, I'm stupid and I have a 4.0 grade average. I'm an stupid MIT graduate with a 5.0 grade average. So it turns out at MIT, so it's an Asian kid. He went to MIT. He's basically saying, I'm stupid. I don't understand half the stuff I did. And but the only reason he has a 5.0 is because any class you have, you can elect to just have it go pass fail. And if you pass, right, so you can cherry pick your grades. So all the classes you do good in, like have a high mark, you keep those. And then the ones where you get a C or D or B, you just do those pass fail and they don't show up on the transcript as like 4.0, 3.0, whatever. Yeah, dude, it's pretty crazy, dude.
And these institutions, like some of them are they get grants and funds from governments or corporations or whatever. And if their students are failing, right, they don't get that. It's like, why invest into something that's not producing? You know, right? So the institutions themselves have incentive to like fudge numbers or emit results, etc.
And I saw another one. This was at a European university. This guy was complaining. He was trying to get his PhD, and the PhD sponsor kept saying, "This ain't good enough. Don't submit this. This is horrible." Blah blah blah. He complained about her. He went back and forth. So after like 6 years, like he still don't have his PhD, even though he had been published 3 times, right? And then like I go and I start reading the comments, and they're like, the professor in these comments, they listed, so he ended up listing them as a co-author of the paper. And then when you go look them up, right? So this is his advisor that has a PhD. They're supposed to be sponsoring him to get a PhD, and they're trying to stop him because once he gets his PhD, he's out of there. This person, when they looked up this person, because you can look up like, okay, what is this person published? How many people cite this person's work as a scientist? All her citations of other people citing her work came from the paper that he wrote, right? So she had something like 66 citations, and 50 of those citations came from the 3 papers he published, which he had to list her as a co-author because she was the PhD sponsor. She was basically using him to advance her own career as an academic by just like piggybacking on him, dude. And of course, he was like Asian, right? And like once he started complaining, they were like, "Oh, we're going to drop you. We're not going to sponsor you no more, and you're going to get shipped back to China." Right? Because they'll put like he had a student visa, and if he isn't in the PhD program, he goes his visa. He has to go back to China. So they were using basically, dude. It's just a horrible. I can't even believe I watch it. Like, man, people are scumbags. It's like a university in the Netherlands that they were doing this Chinese dude too.
Yeah, it's like you think like, oh, they're educated, they're beyond bigotry and all this other stuff. Bullshit.
Look, they're just like everybody else, and maybe worse. I mean, they could even be worse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they're in there like the quote unquote ivory tower. There's no systems of checks and balances. Once you got tenure, you can't be fired, right? So now you don't even have any type of like consequences for shitty behavior. I mean, Richard Feynman was running around like banging all his fucking students, all the girls. It's well known that he was doing this, and he was married at the time.
Yeah, that Lawrence Krauss got busted.
Carl Sagan.
Yeah,
Carl Sagan was doing it too.
Lawrence Krauss. They asked like, why did you do this? Why did you act that way towards these young girls? He's like, hey, I'm a man. I gained access to these young girls, young impressionable girls trying to come up in STEM. They viewed me as some sort of smart guy. I wanted to wet my willy, and I took the opportunity. He basically says, you only live once. You might as well get all the pleasure you can possibly get. And they're like,
dude is literally an ugly fucking nerd, right? An ugly ass nerd. Lawrence Krauss is pretty butt fucking ugly, dude. So an ugly nerd is surrounded with beautiful women and has power. What the fuck do you think he's going to have? This is literally his only opportunity. He ain't getting another chance. I'd probably take it too if I was him.
He's throwing atheism, and there's nothing stopping him.
Well, oh yeah, of course. But it's not like, think about it like this, dude. You got Giga Chad who don't have to do anything, and just like, because he's good looking, whatever, and attractive, all the girls want him. Now Lawrence Krauss is in this situation, but he's not good looking and attractive, but he gets the same amount of attention from women. fuck, dude. I would take it too, dude. Like it's never. You're punching outside of your weight class, man. It's like fucking being in a dream world or something. It's like rubbing the magic lamp and like, give me 3 wishes. I want to be attractive Giga Chad, and all women want me, right? But this dude has got that, and he's ugly as fuck. Look at this dude in the chat. This is Lawrence Krauss, dude. This dude couldn't get laid in a women's prison with a fistful of pardons.
Yeah, it was more than, I think, just hooking up. Like, he was abusing women too.
Oh, I'm
they
sure.
dropped out of the program. Like they said, "Oh, I'm not going to get this degree anymore. This is kind of fucked up."
Well, I'm sure they did. Like the girls, after being with him, had to drink themselves into a fucking oblivion just to cope. Dude, just think about it. Imagine having a memory of this slobbering fool on top of you, man. I'd fucking drink myself to death. I wonder if he's on the Epstein fucking Noelia Express list. I bet you he is. Because Epstein had an affinity for, quote unquote scientists. You know about Ghislaine Maxwell's dad, right, Crit?
Yeah, I heard it before. It's not something I paid attention to.
How he got rich? Why he got rich and became a billionaire?
Yeah, it's
the entire peer review system.
Yeah, I will say
he created it. He created it pretty much. Didn't exist, and he literally created it by creating a monopoly. So there were journals, right? There wasn't a lot, but then he took that. He went and he bought like one of the major ones, or like partial owner, and ended up taking control of it. But then like monopolized the industry over time, and he branched out. So he started making journals like so there was like science and the Annals of Physics and Nature magazine, and the fucking the British Journal of Medicine. So there were some journals out there, but there wasn't like what we have now, which is like thousands of journals dedicated to every fucking possible human endeavor. The Journal of frickin' Women frickin' Lesbian Dance Theory Studies and Basket Weaving, right? Like now they have journals for everything. This didn't exist. Like these other these subcategories didn't exist. He created journals for like all these subcategories. The Journal of Environmental Science, the Journal of Geology, the Journal, he created all these and then charged access. And the thing is, he mostly sold to governments, right? Because governments, if I'm in the government, we want to justify some project and I have to do research. Oh shit, we have to buy freaking access to this journal and this is how he made his billions. Creating the peer review system, which never existed. There was no peer review. No one fucking peer reviewed fucking electrodynamics of moving bodies of Einstein. There's no citations in it, none of that crap. Was Newton peer reviewed? Who peer reviewed the Principia?
Yeah, he just published it. This is it. It's my book.
That's how they used to do it.
Yeah.
They would just publish a book. Now it's like this artificial gatekeeping. Is it peer reviewed? And if it's not peer reviewed, they use it like, oh, that's not peer reviewed. We don't have to pay attention to it. And they did this crap during COVID, right? Oh, this dude came up with the paper on the Harvard's preprint server. Oh, it's not peer reviewed. Well, COVID just came out 15 days ago. Like nothing's peer reviewed. You know what I mean? It's like peer review isn't a complaint because nothing is peer reviewed.
Yeah, it's like it's easy to shit on it because it's like, hey, well, where's your study? Where's your? Oh, this is a brand new topic raised just today. Something completely new. Well, fuck it. Who cares?
Well, yeah. Then it doesn't get peer reviewed, does it? Like,
Yeah, but then you have the narrative, right? And then when people were like, some scientists would come out against the mainstream narrative, like science reporters and journalists are going, well, that study's not peer reviewed. Well, the shit you're claiming is the truth. That shit wasn't peer reviewed either. They don't tell you that.
Right.
The counter narrative needs peer review. The narrative never needs peer review.
Just a foregone conclusion. Like, yep, that's the way it is.
That's right. You just proclaim there's a consensus. How they came to the knowledge that there is a consensus, or what the consensus is, or who it's a consensus among, they never tell you. How do you know there's a consensus? I don't know if you ever heard me ask over this. The consensus is Kirk Segal. Well, how do you know that? Who took the poll? Where was the survey? How do you know there's a consensus about that? You never get an answer because they don't know how they know there's a consensus. It's a consensus of what they show in the media, but how do you know what the consensus among scientists is? Like, nobody knows. They're not out there polling scientists. And even if they did, that wouldn't determine what the truth is anyway. Yeah, the LIGO thing, people need to read the documentation. That's all I need to say. Is they need to read how they reach their conclusions. Now, it isn't straightforward. There's so much noise that they're capturing data, right? But there's noise in this data, shitloads, because they're measuring a very small displacement. So you have things like thermal noise, right? Just the temperature of the object itself causes a vibration that's 11 orders of magnitude larger than the displacement they're trying to measure. Okay, they're trying to measure something that they say is 1/1000th of a proton radius in size. Think about that for a second. 1/1000th of a proton radius.
Wow.
They're trying to measure a motion that's that small. They can't do it. So I'll post in the chat. So there's a CERN physicist who went over their technique, like one of their techniques they do to get this quote unquote data. They use something called templates. So because they didn't detect anything for like 4 years, right, and they'd spent billions of dollars, they were like, we need something. So we're going to go, okay, if we did see a gravitational wave, what would it look like? So they made these waveforms, right? They made a bunch of templates of waveforms of what a gravitational wave would look like, and then they waited to see one of those waveforms in the noise, and then we're like, look, we detected a gravitational wave. So literally what they did.
It's sharpshooting fallacy. What's that called?
Yeah, Texas sharpshooter fallacy. Right.
Yeah, Texas. Something different. What is it? Texas sharpshooter. Yeah.
What made them think that they knew what it would look like?
Well, because they got a model, bro.
Wow, what they've got to base it on something. They've got to have some sort of, like, at least.
Oh, they did like neutron. They did like neutron star sucked into a black hole. The one they quote unquote detected was the two black hole ring down, right? So that was like two black holes spiral into each other. But they came up with like 800 different ones, right? 800 different scenarios, which would be strong enough to have a gravitational wave that was intense enough to detect. So they came up with 800 of them. And then waited to see one of them in the noise.
Got rid of the outliers and just said, "That's it. That's what we needed right there."
But it's not even straight. I saw it in the noise, right? There was a bunch of noise, and then we saw this. All that noise is post-processed, right? So they're running it through filters and a bunch of shit, and then like they look at some end fucking thing that's been mathematically massaged through like 25 different algorithms. And it's like, wow, so we detected one. Wow, we're
How do they
fucking
know
heroes. Give us more
there's
money.
not something else? Like, how do they know there's not something else that can give the same result?
Or it's just noise. Because random noise is going to generate
too.
every possible waveform itself, right? Eventually, you're going to see everything, right? It's probability, right? Eventually, you're going to see every possible iteration of every waveform. Period. You're just gonna. And then when you run it through algorithms, you're giving the noise structure that otherwise would not exist.
Kind of like the oceans are more than likely the cosmic microwave background radiation.
Yes, they gave that structure which did not exist too. See, if you have something that's truly random, the only way it stays random is if you add it to another thing that's truly random or multiply it by a thing that's truly random. But when you add an algorithm to it, the algorithm itself is a structure. And like you can take the random noise and throw it through the algorithm in whatever mathematical treatment you gave it, right? So let's say it's a random temperature, and I run it through some algorithm. It's not going to spit out the algorithm as a random temperature. It's going to be random in a way, but the mathematical algorithm itself, whatever it is, 2 + 2, right? It's going to have that structure to a degree. So if they do a whole bunch of filtering and all that stuff, they're trying to take away noise so you got a lot of background noise and you're looking for a signal in a background noise, right? So let's say you're freaking standing next to a jumbo jet and it runs its engines and you start freaking yodeling. Your yodel is in that noise somewhere. How do you get it out? Right?
You're speaking
you got to filter out all that other shit, right? You got to filter out all the other waveforms of the jumbo jet engine.
Yeah, but you're
and maybe you can retrieve. Well, yeah, maybe you can retrieve the yodeling, but chances are you're not going to be able to if the signal to noise ratio, the signal being your voice, the noise being the jumbo jet engine, if there's a certain ratio, you can never retrieve the original unless you know what the source was in the first place. So if you had a perfect model of the jumbo jet noise, right, you could say, hey, this is what we recorded After Effects with this the yodeling. Oh, there's this extra shit in there. We can extract the extra shit even though we have all this noise. It's because you know what the source was in the first place. You have what's called a priori knowledge of the source, so you can get a higher signal to noise ratio and extract the signal. But if you don't know what the source is, you can't do that. There's a limit, and it's probably like 10,000 to 1.
Well, Flatsy is the source.
Flatsy is the source.
Of the yodeling, yeah.
Of the yodeling.
Hey, India, have you read the CREN paper on the gravity waves? Have you read that one?
Oh, which one?
Paper.
Wait, what do you mean?
I'll get it up. So they wrote a scientific paper when they come out and they said they'd found gravity waves. So they wrote this scientific paper. They're 600 and something pages long. It's like a book. And basically what they observed natural phenomena that they based it upon was their model. And then, thank you. And then what they did is then they just eliminated all of your noise that you were talking about to come up with the exact replica of what their model was in background noise. And then they call that their independent variable. I'll try trace up the paper. Look, I'll try to trace up the paper and highlight the pages. But yeah, it's pulling the wool over people's eyes big time.
Yeah, dude, it's a complete scam. Like they should investigate that for fraud, quite honestly. It's that bad. Like, I know people do like scientific stuff, but LIGO costs so much money, and then they were at the ending of their funding. They had like 6 months of funding left, and then they get a detection, and then they did a press conference. Dude, this press conference is hilarious. The press conference didn't have reporters at it. It had scientists that worked for LIGO pretending to be reporters asking the questions. I'm fucking, dude, no lie, dude. So they had a press conference in a little conference room with a little podium making their announcement. We detected gravitational waves. There was no reporters in the conference room. It was other scientists that worked on LIGO asking the questions, right? It was a completely concocted bullshit, right? And after they concocted this bullshit, you see in like this, of course, like I don't know if you guys know this, but 80% of the stories that are in the media aren't generated by that media organization. They're generated externally by them calling, hey, run a story on this, run a story on that. So LIGO fucking probably called around or emailed and said, hey, we just did this gravitational wave detection, because they get their funding from Congress. So they need PR in order to keep the freaking gravy train flowing. Right? So they get their detection, alleged detection, and all of a sudden there's interviews and they're like, if you read the stuff at the time, they're saying like, this is going to open up a whole new field of physics. This is a whole new, like, now there's going to be like a university degree in gravitational waves. I got a PhD in gravitational waves. Like, that type of bullshit is what we're saying at the time, right? So they're anticipating, they want everyone in academia to get along because it's a whole new line of funding, right? Now the governments of the world, they're going to fund gravitational wave research. There's billions of dollars. Everybody can. You're in academia, and you're some gold level associate professor. Write a couple papers on gravitational waves. You can jump on this gravy train of grants and go forward. It's disgusting. It's like one of the most disgusting parts I've ever seen in, if you want to call it the scientific community, academia, whatever name you want to give it. It's one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen. Period. End of story. How it all happened, from beginning to end. The cost, the funding, the insertion of fucking bullshit into the fucking fake waveforms, the templates, the fucking fake press conference, the fucking media blitz, then going before Congress and getting another $4 billion. It's just horseshit. The entire thing stinks to holy hell. It should all be investigated. It's garbage.
It's just like the same people that run NASA that did some kind of black ops farce that is forced into your realm of media truth. That happens all the time. It's crazy the way they can do that. They could just say that's what it is, and it doesn't matter how pseudoscientific it is. Actually, the worse the better, because it's just it makes it's kind of like a wink and a nod to the thinking man. A lot of that shit, like the space stuff.
Well, people need to start these press conferences where they announce something, right? Some new scientific discovery. The researchers they do an announcement. They get on the podium. Blah blah blah. Start paying attention to who the reporters are. A lot of times these aren't even reporters. They are people that are in the fucking working group of the research that they're announcing was a success. They're the people asking the questions because they feel the reporters don't. This is their rationale. The reporters don't ask the right questions. So we're going to ask the questions and then the press will report on that instead of because the reporter might go, great, you could discover gravitational waves. How does this feed the hungry? Right? They're gonna say something like that, and you don't want to answer that question on why you should get $4 billion when there's starving people in the world, right? So, we're gonna ask the questions.
Right, we're gonna ask questions that lead to the answer.
Nobody gives a fuck.
Have prepared. Yeah, of course.
And then nobody. Also, the other factor, the average Joe don't give a flying fuck, dude. If I go to a truck stop, right? And just poll people that come through the truck stop. Hey, what about gravitational waves? None of them give a fuck.
Well, the reporters are just happy they're given a script. I mean, if they had to think of their own questions, it'd be a lot harder. They get paid the same, right?
Yeah, Sabine Hoffenfelder said recently that she sort of did an expose on that the life of a theoretical physicist coming out of uni, and that's basically why she's a fucking YouTuber, because nobody wanted to hire her for anything that was related to her
she wasn't
expertise,
amazing. Yeah, she wasn't in the club, right? If you're not in the club,
she wanted to do fundamental physics, right? The foundations of physics, right? Really basic, bare bones shit, right? Well, I'll give you an example. Why are there fundamental constants? right? So those are like foundational questions. Not like whether there's a fucking black hole ring down in the middle of the fucking, universe or something. Those aren't fundamental questions. We're talking like foundations of physics. You want to do that, and there's really no jobs for that because
I see.
Because the government don't care about that because that don't make headlines, right?
Right. It's too actually real that they can't work with anything that's real because then they can't make up whatever they want about it. That's the whole thing. The globe is the fictional game board, and because of that, they can own space and say whatever they want about space because they know no one can get there. That's the greatest fucking scam ever. No one's ever going to be able to verify any of this. We could say whatever we want about space and universes and going distances and having a little white dot on a screen and then interpreting it as this like fantastic planet that we just discovered. And it's amazing. It's amazing and it's shameless. It's so shameless that it's beautiful almost. I hope they're using that money and they're just taking all the NASA funding and burning it to keep the hyperinflation from happening or something. Who knows? Maybe, right? Some kind of thing about that. Maybe they're doing something good with it.
So I also think about quantum physics. So we got quantum physics, and it has a contradiction, a logical problem in it, right? So it violates the law of identity by having something in a superposition where it's two things at the same time. So it violates the law of identity. They just basically said, fucking 110 years ago, we don't even give a fuck. We're just going to keep going with this. That's like a fundamental physics question, right? So nobody's funding us to figure out how is this violating the law of identity, because there's no fucking money in that shit.
Right.
Even though you think that would be important, right?
They don't have to acknowledge. They don't have to acknowledge any of that kind of stuff. No, because that's.
Oh yeah, they say shut up and calculate, right? That's what they say. Shut up and calculate.
Well, relativity, that's the crux of the biscuit right there. If you're just saying you can have the law of non-contradiction mean nothing because it's just a matter of reference frame. Yeah, this reference frame is totally valid, and every reference frame is valid, and every what does Zanuck say? Every measurement is valid from every reference frame, all the time, always, or something.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what it is.
But that totally violates the the law of conservation of momentum and everything else. I mean, in every way, it violates every law because you can't have the Earth moving up towards the person that's falling from a plane on both sides of the ball without it expanding. Right? It's going to expand. You can't have the Earth moving up, even though that's what special relativity requires, because all reference frames are valid. Right? It makes no sense, and it totally.
Yeah, but why itself? If you think about it, though, what is a major? I just came to this realization today. I don't know why it took me 50 years. The main problem with relativity that makes it just fucking a mental abortion and quantum mechanics is the time variable. They're all trying to compensate for their inability for fucking time to work out for them, as a variable. So that's what they're trying to fix in general relativity. The time problem, right?
Well,
by hooking everything to
variable. They had to.
Well, yeah. They have to make time variable. And in quantum mechanics, time don't exist.
Right.
So, at the macro scale, they just say, "What is use a fucked up clock?" And at the micro scale, we're throwing clocks away.
This guy did, man. That was dumb. Not even funny. Go ahead, Indio.
Yeah. So. But the thing is, they also did it going back the other way. They did it coming down. And they didn't get the same number. Right? So think about that for a second. And it's because when you're going up, so if you're looking up to the gradient versus when you're looking down through the gradient, right, so they're going up basically a 45-degree angle. So there's going to be some degree of refraction because flat Earth or not flat Earth, there is a gradient. Right? If you're looking up at a 45-degree angle. What they found out is that the refraction error is not equal. Right? So there's a different amount of refraction looking up, looking down. And there's less looking up and more looking down. And I tried to point this out to Ruhiv over in the Discord, and he pretended like he didn't hear me and didn't say it, even though I know he knows about it. And the reason I know he knows about it is I brought it up to him many times before, a couple of years ago, talking about San Jacinto, right? I actually have a thing about it. The publication from the U.S. Geological Survey talking about this thing called unequal refraction error, meaning if you survey going up a mountain versus survey going down a mountain, you're not going to get the same height.
Yeah, differential leveling, right?
Yeah, differential leveling, but you're going up versus down, right? So you set, like, you're going... Okay, so these guys say light goes down into the more dense gradient. But if you're looking up, right, that line of sight is not the same as a line of sight if you're... So I have something underneath me, I look at that, right? The light comes off that and goes up into a lesser density. So it's going to, quote-unquote, bend down less. Whereas if I'm going the other way, it's going to bend down more. So we could take the exact same path of surveying, but then when we look at the measurements and we sum them all up, they're not going to sum the same number. Because you're going to have that's why I said it's an unequal refraction error. Right?
Right.
So I explained this to Rohit. He tried to pretend it didn't happen. And he, like, I brought up a bunch of other stuff, and Rohit just like, he's got his little fucking thing that he's going to talk about, and he'll never talk about anything else. Even though if you bring up all these things, which, like, okay, everything you said is false because X, Y, Z, T, D, Q. He'll never talk about any of those things. He'll just keep repeating the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, he'll invoke extreme refraction if he has to, so there's no reason to talk to that guy ever.
Yeah.
Extreme refraction.
Certainly.
Okay, whatever. You see your own ass. Okay, never mind. I'm not going to talk to you. Doesn't investigate anything else but try to reify the globe through refraction. Yet says he'd go to an insane asylum if he were ever to realize he's wrong. But he doesn't investigate anything.
Well, it's because a few years back he made a ray tracer and was like, oh, I'm going to do this ray trace. I'm going to make all these predictions of what should be on the globe. And proceeded to go find cherry-pick data.
Yep.
And feed it into his fucking ray tracer. But you bring up something like, your ray tracer's trash, because what wavelength are you using? Because refraction depends on wavelength. And, like, what wavelength are you using? Oh, he won't say. Because he's using, like, this generalized refraction model, which applies to nothing, right? It's as bad as, like, using 7.6R. There's no basis for it. It's just like some model someone concocted in their fucking head that's disconnected from reality.
Yep. But do you think he's smart enough to realize that? And he's just arguing to try to, like...
He knows.
Reify? He knows.
I have no doubt. I mean, he could have cogged this. It's not because of lack of comprehension.
But it's almost worse for some of these guys that have been in the argument this long and
but the thing is,
know how to avoid things. If they're avoiding things, then it's like you're either in such cog dis and stupid, because that's like really lame.
But who publicly debates? When people publicly debate, and I think they know they're wrong, then I'm like, you're a propagandist, dude.
Yeah.
Because you're just trying to fool people that don't know any better. Right? Because you got to admit, a lot of people, I start talking about refraction, they don't know what the hell I'm talking about. The average person doesn't know anything about it. Someone just jumping in this topic, like, you might know a little bit about it. Yeah, that's what makes Mirage this, or like something very simplistic. So when Rufus says, I have a ray tracer, they go, fucking look at this guy, dude. This guy knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, it's
and then they take what he says as holy writ. Even though he's lying by omission. He's leaving out significant details which would affect his results, and he's using like a simplified model, even though to a layman it looks like a complex model, but no, it's actually simplified. But the layman don't know. But he does know it's simplified.
Exactly.
But he doesn't say
if he's tactical and strategize that way, that he knows better than you can't just say, he thinks that's real.
Model. So he doesn't go, I made this ray tracer. It's a very simplified model for refraction based upon an idealized spherically symmetric gradient. He doesn't say that, but that's what it is.
Well, but then he'll say, so are you trying to claim that simplifying something makes it wrong?
Yeah, I'll claim that. It makes it wrong. It makes it wrong like a donkey talk. It could be right twice a day.
Well, it's good enough for him. That's all he wants. He will not look into anything but that.
What is the purpose of simplification of a model?
And for the math to be easier on the layman.
No, then why do it at all? Like, no, seriously, like, then why do it at all? The purpose of simplification of a model is like purely like, what do they call it? Pedagogical. So you kind of going through it's almost like practicing, right? So like, you know how you play t-ball? T-ball's not baseball. But you're kind of playing baseball. It's like a simplified model of baseball, like home run derby. It's not as complicated as baseball.
Right.
But you still play, right? So that one day when you play baseball, you'll be able to actually do it. Or
You know
if
you're
it's
gonna hit the ball
interested
every
in
time.
baseball, right? So I play t-ball. Maybe I'll be good at baseball too. Let me go try baseball. So that's what these simplified models are for. Like, oh, I can do a simplified model. Maybe I can take like physics in university and do the more complicated models. Maybe I can do that, right? So they're just like the purpose is purely human. It has nothing to do with physics, right? It's not trying to model the world. It's not trying to like be a hypothesis. It's not trying to match experimental results. It's not trying to do anything like that. It's a divorce from science. It's purely exercise for human beings. It's not for figuring out what the natural world is. Because the model is so simplified. Well, yeah, because the model is so simplified, it can't predict anything.
Right.
I mean, what would it predict? Like, would you take Rufus' model and like, oh yeah, I'm going to go down to fucking Boston Harbor and I'm going to look at a boat? You think fucking Rufus' model before I go do the observation? I'm going to wait till the boat's 10 miles away. The boat's this big. I'm going to be at this height. Rufus' model, and this is the weather. I plugged in the Rufus' model, and this is what I should see. And then I'm going to go down to the seaport, and I'm going to see that? You think I'm going to see what Rufus' model says I'm going to see? Fucking of course not.
Well, he'll show you exactly. It's perfectly within the error of measurement. Just make that large enough, and then make the refraction unfalsifiable, because you can see your own ass, and there you go. You win every time that way. It's like
Does anybody bring up the fact that he's making post-dictions?
Oh, all the time.
And what does he say?
He'll just, you can say that, you can classify it that way if you want, but it's reality, so of course it's going to be accurate.
What's reality? That it's a post-diction?
Oh, jeez, this guy, I don't even talk to him anymore. I always just bring up planes and he runs away. He tried to claim relativity the last time I brought it up to him. I have screenshots of the chat. He's like, it's just relative. It's every reference frame's valid, so it works fine.
Well, I guess the next question has to be, is there any observation that you could do that would falsify the globe that can't be explained away by refraction? And I bet you he'll say no.
He would say, well, if it's reality, well, what are you talking about? Like, everything works.
Yeah, so what? It's actually not an argument, though.
No, I don't bother with him any longer.
Yeah.
But,
well, I only bring him up because he was over at Ether Cause and, like, you know, in the Discord and chat skanking and kind of, like, dodging everything I said. And, like, you know, and then he left, right? So he's not in there anymore. He basically went in there, stirred the pot, and then when called out, it fucking vanished. So
I don't know if there's any ballers that I bother with at all. I ever look forward to talking to at all anymore. At all. Not that I ever did, but you know who's interesting to talk to is that big tech guy. Did you ever listen to him and talk?
Yeah, I talked to him a couple times.
Yeah,
I smashed on him in here.
Yeah, he definitely is easy to defeat, but at the same time, he's probably better than most ballers to talk to. He's easier on the ears than most ballers. I'll give him that.
Yeah, but I think he's a phony. I think inside he's like fucking. I think like there's nothing. He acts like civil and congenial, but I don't think he really feels that way. I think that's kind of an act.
Yeah, but he's not as. I mean, it's not much of a compliment. I'm just saying he's not as grating to talk to as a lot of other ballers. Like if I was telling him he should just like, you know, be the full on, you ball defender.
He was supposed to trot out a surveyor, dude. Did he ever do that?
No idea. He kind of disappeared. I actually talked to him in private about planes, and he got so frustrated he rage quit. But then I was telling him that it's okay. I hope he kind of wins because I think they're going to use flat Earth as like a
new perspective. Like, so this is unsolicited advice. Because of, like, you're making arguments that are over their head to, like, the average baller. So you have to start, like, with the foundation. I would start with, before you even talk about planes, ask them if they know what the difference between a kinematic and a dynamic model is. Like, they don't know, so they don't really know what you're talking about.
Yep, like this crux of the argument. That is what it comes down to. It's the dynamics and the kinematics.
Yeah, but they don't even understand what that is.
No.
So they see them both as like the same thing in a way.
Yeah.
Like as if they're interchangeable parts. Like I can take this from dynamics and stick it in the kinematics, take this from the kinematics and stick it in the dynamics, and that they can just like make this some Frankenstein model.
Einstein did. That's what Einstein did. He mixed them up and treated them the same in different ways in the same paper. He'll talk about them as if they were like one and the same. But separate at the same time.
Yeah, take a bunch of letters, stick it in the Scrabble bag, shake it up, see what letters come out.
Yeah,
freaking retarded.
Well, mathematically, we just have to get around that by using the math. I mean, yeah, it doesn't fit reality, but that's not our concern with what we're talking about. We're just going to use this math here. I mean, Kepler was all about the kinematics.
I mean, actually, I wouldn't even ask them. That's if they know the difference between kinematics and dynamics, because then they'll get defensive. I would say, okay, so I'm going to talk about the dynamics of flying an airplane on a rotating Earth, which means the forces applied to the plane, momentum, inertia, all those things, right?
Well, I start them with...
And I'll go from there.
Well, you know what I do is I start off with, if we jump up in the air, right, and we're landing it back at the same spot, or if we take a helicopter up off the ground and then we hover in one area, the globe says, right, that it's conserved momentum from the plane or helicopter. You just being on the ground, you kind of inherit that same motion from being on the ground with the rotation at whatever latitude you're at. Maybe it's 500 mile per hour, but you're going 500 mile per hour when you're on the ground, so you conserve that momentum, right? And that's the reason that we're given for being in sync with the Earth when you jump up or go up in a helicopter, right? And if they know enough to agree to that, they'll say, okay, yeah, that's right. It's conserve momentum from being on the surface. Okay, so then if you're going into an area that's not the same tangential velocity as what you were standing on, then where's the extra velocity come from? You have to be going 1,000 miles an hour.
And this is what they do, right? So they try to play the shell game, right? They try to go, well, the air has the same kinematics as the ground, right? The air in the ground can be treated the same, so it doesn't matter. You can just be in the air on the ground. There's no difference. Yep. And they just try to take that dynamic part away as if it doesn't exist. And this is like, I'm not saying you're a problem at all. Don't take it that. I'm just thinking about their excuses and how they end up, because you have to admit, like, they will play Ring Around the Rosies with that shit for like a fucking 2 hours, dude.
Oh, you've heard it.
Like,
I've done it.
So, yeah, you've done it. I heard you do it, dude.
Many hours.
I know. I probably watched them all.
Like one after they're just lining up like one after the other with their own interpretation. They don't even try to, like, if they try to with the atmospheric drag and like the air. So the plane flies in the air and the air is in sync with the Earth. Well, first of all, they can't even claim it's in sync, because it's not. They have to say it's not in sync because that's what's causing the weather to begin with, supposedly.
Yeah, and that's removing the dynamics anyway. That's just saying, hey, there's no dynamics to the air.
Right.
It's just saying, the air has no
wind's going in all directions.
It's all in the rotating reference frame that the plane's in.
Yeah, how do you separate the air that's moving the plane from the wind that's moving the plane? If the wind is moving the plane, and that's the only thing that moves the plane, then the air that's moving the plane would have to act on the plane like a wind, and that only goes in one direction. What if you got winds going in all the other directions, and it doesn't make a difference? That's ridiculous. It's a violation of the law of conservation of momentum and energy. You can't just say it does and it doesn't go in both directions at the same time. It doesn't make any sense. You'd have to have one eastward consistent block of air that moves the plane in sync. Then you'd never be able to fly against it. There's too many variables. You have the winds going the opposite direction. You have the plane flying against it. And you're saying that at the same time, you're going to just kinematically say, oh, we're just going to subtract that and make it as if the Earth never moved. Because that's the only way they can do it, is that the pilot treats the Earth stationary. It treats the Earth as stationary. This is what I love to ask ballers at the very end of these conversations. What would be the difference between training a pilot to fly and land on a stationary level Earth compared to training a pilot to fly and land on a spinning globe Earth?
Well, they'll say nothing, dude, and they're fine with that.
Say there's no difference. So what are we even talking about? There's no difference. How the hell could the fucking plane be in a separate reference frame and then somehow be completely in the same reference frame, so much so that you can't tell the difference between it stationary and not stationary? That's just insane to even propose that.
Dude, their entire worldview is no difference. Dude, hold on, Plasty. That's what it is. Their entire world. Oh, it looks flat. Well, that's no difference from a big ball. Oh, you can't feel it spinning. That's no difference than a fucking big ball rotating very slowly. Everything is no difference, dude. Everything is it just looks all this way. It's just when it's actually something else, dude. They have no problem with the no difference thing. It's that's not even it's not a flex for them. They're that's a win for them. For them, that's a big W.
Flat. We know it's not flat. We just treat it like that. And there's no difference between it being flat and being a ball, but we know it's not flat, even though there's no difference.
So there's an actor named Leonard Nimoy. He played a logical fucking alien on a TV series that lasted 2.5 years. And now everybody thinks he's smart. Because he played some role on TV, right? And now he's doing In Search Of, and he gives credibility to all these crackpot ideas because, oh my God, this is the smart guy from fucking Star Trek.
Yeah, aliens are default. If aliens are here, that means they're smarter than us because they found us instead of us fighting them.
That's right.
So it must be that all aliens are smarter than us. And if he's an alien, even if it's just TV, it's based on reality. It's based on our future. It's based on what we know is going to be. We're all going to be up there.
Do you remember the opening for In Search Of? You remember the opening flatter, dude? So they show that picture of the Loch Ness Monster. They show a picture of a UFO. Okay. They show Bigfoot. They show the pyramids, right? So that was the show, right? The Loch Ness Monster. I didn't even believe that when I was a kid. I was like, that looks like someone zoomed in on someone's fingers sticking out of the water. Who are they fucking trying to fool with that shit?
You think that one might be real though? Is that the one that they've kind of straw man and made kind of fictional, but it's actually real? Is that one of those things? There is something like that in it, maybe.
The Loch Ness Monster.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to say at this point, dude.
Yeah, there's been some really good, old-looking footage of it that seems very believable. Whoever did that edit is pretty good.
Probably dead now. I've heard that it was there, but it's dead now.
Sure, but there's probably all kinds of creatures down there that are
it was In Search Of,
what we know.
In Search Of?
With Leonard Nimoy.
In Search Of.
In Search Of.
You gotta remember that era, right? That era was $6 Million Man had Bigfoot in it, right? Yeah, Land of the Lost, shit like that. That was the type of some really hippie, crazy fucking. I took a bunch of LSD crackpot shit on TV, dude. On one side, right? On one side, and on the other side are fucking Leave It to Beaver and fucking what was the other shit? Sanford Son and all those things, right? It's really weird and mix of fucking brainwashing, bro.
You know what though? Bigfoot is one of the most interesting when you look at all the sides of it, because that they've used it, whether it's true or not, whether there is a Bigfoot or not, they're getting their mileage out of it on every side. They're if someone's either doing a really good job of convincing people that Bigfoot is real, because I know a lot of sane people that totally think there is Bigfoot, right? Even that channel Mind Unveiled, they do a pretty good job of convincing you a lot of these things are real, their whole series. If you watch that, their what do they call it? The Anyway, it's like the animal series. Bigfoot, maybe like the people with the dog face, the chest face people. What are those called? What are those called? The chest face people.
Well,
Some people
all I
think
know
that's
is like
real.
it's really hard to find people in very like desolate areas, even when you know they're there and you're looking
Sure.
for them, and they're looking for you, right? So you're both looking for each other. It's very hard to like search like very large areas and find something. You know, you're
Right.
trying to find a fucking a 2 foot wide human being in 100,000
Right.
square fucking miles, dude. Good luck to you.
Or it could be that, by default, Bigfoot's smarter than us too. Like the fact that we haven't like proven that it exists or caught one yet, or maybe they have caught one and they just don't tell us, right? Who knows? But if Bigfoot's smart enough to stay out of sight, maybe they're smarter than us. Maybe just like the aliens that were smart enough to find us.
I'd be more likely to believe, as far as like the Pacific Northwest. I don't really know how rural it is. I've never really been out there.
Oh, dude, there's a guy. There's a place in California, right near Santa Cruz, that is like this little depot. This guy hangs out, and he's got all the Bigfoot evidence in there. And there's a whole clan of people that are like, not even. It's 100% in their minds. They've seen it. They know it's there. And they've all seen it. They've all have proof of it. They have like the footprints and everything, the molds. It's either a really good fucking LARP, like really intricate. Like the people, he's put a lot of time into like faking these pictures if they're all fake, right? Somebody's trolling them, or it's
Yeah, how come no one's caught one with like a trail camera, dude?
have they? I bet you could find one. At least someone claiming
I
it.
mean, I've seen a couple, but like you can't actually see anything. So it's like,
It is pretty bad sometimes, but it makes it look more real sometimes if it's a little blurry. You're like, oh, well, if they're going to fake it, they should have shown like more than that. So it makes it a little more believable. Whoever's doing it, whether it could be real or it's a really good troll.
I mean,
I couldn't tell you whether I think there's a Bigfoot or not right now. I'm not sure.
I'm
Really,
definitely not sure. I've seen some weird shit. Anyway, not gonna get into that.
Could be. It's just
like, Bigfoot had a very highly like say its sense of smell was like 100 times better than a bloodhound or something. Anywhere a human being went, it would know it went there. Like so, if it set up a trail camera, it'd be able to smell that trail camera like fucking 10 miles away. You know what I mean? It's just like if you live in the woods, anything not from the woods, you'll be able to smell that shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
sure.
There's no electronics in the woods, right? So like fucking like electronics have a distinctive smell, like a PCB. Yeah, like a PCB has a smell to it, right? It's not like it doesn't have any smell to it. And like we can barely smell unless we stick our nose up to it. Doesn't mean Bigfoot can't smell it from like a mile away.
Yeah, way better environment, probably cleaner air and everything else. Yeah, they could definitely smell us. Maybe they're not that smart. They could just smell really good. But regardless, I think that, or it might be. If I had to bet, like I might be 60-40 that Bigfoot does exist. But maybe I'm just watching the convincing stuff. It's just meeting that guy maybe made me feel like, wow, this guy's not kidding. He really does think there is something. Or he's a really good actor, and he didn't seem like smart enough to be that good an actor. So either he's being trolled or he's found something. But they've made such a farce of it. If anyone claims it, if you try to go yell it from the rooftops, people will laugh at you. That's how they do it. They make all of these, fake ass, like free energy. They make a lot of free energy videos that aren't real on purpose, so that no one thinks. So people are like, oh yeah, so it's another fake video about free energy. That's because free energy is not real. It's not possible. It makes people write it off.
Depends on the situation, dude. So everyone believes in free energy once you say gravity, but other than that, there's no free energy.
Well, yeah.
Right. So gravity never runs out of energy, right? In their thing, like gravity never runs out of energy. It's a perpetual motion machine. It lasts forever. Like it never runs out. Like, you can add more and more shit, right? So now the gravity needs to exert more and more force to move all this other shit, but it doesn't run out. It doesn't use up anything that was there. Right? It's like the gravity ran out. No one says that. No one has a problem with this perpetual motion machine.
Well, think about it, the rotation of the Earth. Like, you know how it's supposed to lag behind when you get to a certain altitude. Actually, which is a contradiction in a way. It should work the opposite way for it to keep the planes in sync and all of that, but that doesn't. It lags behind supposedly, and it would, because you only have the friction at the surface. You know, if the Earth were rotating for real, I don't think you'd have a block of atmosphere that's at consistency whatsoever at all. Not even close, right? They say it at least lags behind at a certain altitude. Think about the perpetual power of that, you know, just using that force on a regular basis, you know? Or, you know, the ionic winds are a whole other thing that people say you can get free energy from. But
You can just go high enough where there's no drag and just let the Earth spin out from underneath you. I don't like. Why can't we do that?
well, because it's not spinning. If it was actually rotating, we would.
Oh
be able
yeah,
to
I
do
know that part.
I know, I know. But that's the thing. The reason is that is the actual reason, you know, because they can't really fake that, or that wouldn't be if that were a thing, it would prove that we're not spinning, because that would be a problem for all aircraft and everything, right?
Yeah, but I want to know what is their cope? What is their justification? Like
They don't have
what
one.
is
That's
their?
why I only argue this when you ask them where the extra energy comes from to, you know, make the atmosphere speed up at that outside, you know, to make it like the racetrack equalization of the speed is. They have no answer for that. They just say it does, right? Isn't that right? You'd know better than I would probably. They just say that that's what it does. It has to, because that's the way it works. That's the way everything
You
measures.
can never get
There's no drag.
when you get into the rotation of Earth with these guys and like the dynamics of it, they fucking abandon ship. That's typically what happens.
Yeah. That's
They run
exactly
away from
why
that shit
I
as
do
fast
only
as
that.
possible.
Yeah, because it's ridiculous. They say it's what causes the weather patterns, right? The difference between the atmosphere's rotational speed, the tangential velocity of the atmosphere, compared to the tangential velocity of the ground, the difference is what causes the weather patterns. So our whole dynamic system is caused by this difference of the atmosphere not being in sync with the ground. And then we have to also believe at the same time the atmosphere also carries that dynamic system in a static relationship to everything in that dynamic system, to each other, and it just carries it along perfectly in sync, so much so that you can't tell the difference, even though the dynamic system that was statically brought along to be perfectly in sync was caused by the atmosphere not being perfectly in sync. So make sense of that.
You should get to do this like an experiment, right? So according to them guys, the Earth is smoother than a billiard ball. So we should be able to take some sort of ball bearing that's super smooth. I mean, you probably can't even manufacture a ball smooth enough to replicate what they say the roughness of the Earth is.
What?
So we take this, right, and we stick it inside a chamber with air. Well, hold on.
Are they saying that? No terrain? Okay, go ahead.
Well, because the horizontal sides versus the vertical sides, the difference, the ratio, is like, you know, the tallest mountain's 5 miles, right? But it's 5 miles fucking compared to, like, you know, fucking, you know, 193 million square miles. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah, they scale it.
So the V versus the H is the ratio.
I get it.
It's like the smoothness.
What
Anyway,
was your point?
so,
Sorry for this.
Yeah, so so we can take a ball, right? Or like an iron ball, super smooth, whatever, nickel cadmium, whatever. We rotate it within a magnetic field inside a chamber, and we'll see if this super smooth ball can drag the gas around.
Of course, yeah, but they would say that no, it has to be the exact size of the Earth.
Oh,
really say it's the same because it's not the same, you know, atmosphere, and we don't have to have all the exact same pressure, and all of that has to be exactly the way the Earth is. Otherwise, so it's basically unfalsifiable and it's ridiculous. It should have ended.
Because there is a thing where there is what is it called, laminar flow, right? So, an object rotating in a fluid will drag it along to a degree.
To a degree.
But that also depends on how rough the surface is.
Right.
And the characteristics of the fluid, and like there's a lot of other stuff that no one's actually solved this mathematically yet.
The variables would be so extreme, no one would even try. You don't. I mean, like I was trying to get my friend, the model builder. You know about him, the French guy, the model builder. We called him. I called him the Beast. So he's French, so he went by La Bête, which means the beast in French. Do you know who the model builder is at all? I've talked about him a few times. Oh, okay. Well, he's a guy I kind of rescued from 24/7. And I say 24/7, and I rescued him from because he was starting to mention the ether, and there was some ether police in there that night. That were like,
He's
oh,
very,
don't
he's
let him talk
very
about the ether. You know, I was like, wait a minute, okay, let me talk to this guy about the ether somewhere else. And then I brought him over to Ether Cause, and he just blew our mind with the shit. He used to work for a space agency, and he realized that the moon landing was fake, as well as the ISS was fake, because he was analyzing these pictures. He was like a software developer, and he would actually supply the guy that did like the blue marble paintings with like pictures from what he knew were like only the altitude of airplanes, right? He's like, these are airplane pictures. I know the difference. I'm stitching these. I'm stitching all these together, or sending them to somebody and analyzing all of this, and he knew all that. Still was believing in the ball even after he realized the moon landing and the ISS were fake. Like he just convinced himself that they just doing that for the show, but it's still a ball. And then something, what was it? It was gyroscopes on airplanes, the mechanical gyroscope that got him, and then everything else started falling in place after that, and he's a total flat earther, right? And he used to work for a space agency and still does like awesome work with the computer, and he did like a flight simulator that was 2 scale, right? And he did like so he did the actual 2 scale model of it. He has the software, and he wouldn't give us the thing to use because it was proprietary, as well as he didn't want to get in trouble because he has access to things he shouldn't probably still. Anyway, he did a 2 scale flight simulator and was showing that very clearly, even at the height of any average airplane, you should see a lot of curvature. I mean, that just makes sense anyway, but he was showing it. Like, you would definitely see the leading edge of the sphere out in front of you and taper down to the sides. That we should see lots of curvature from every single plane flight anyone's on, which is ironic because we always laugh at people saying they saw the curvature from an airplane. But they should be able to, is the point, and they don't. We don't see it because it just splays out way too far. It wouldn't work that way in a ball. It's like obvious, and that's the end of the conversation if anyone really looks at it. Anyway, so he also did, he downloaded the ping data from every flight for 2 weeks. He had millions of like ping data saved on his computer from 2 weeks of having access to the site that he ended up getting banned from, I guess. But he had all the ping data plotted out on an AE map, right? And there was a 3.5 hour difference, or it was closer to 3 hour difference that he was showing that they were reporting compared to what his ping data was saying for the southern flights. And there was only 4 different airlines that even 4 different actual planes that did the routes down there, and they were very selective, and he could tell that there was a big difference, a 3-hour discrepancy from what they were reporting to what the ping data was actually showing, which he didn't notice in the north. Of course, it was spot on. So I got a couple of videos I'll post from him. We were doing interviews, but I don't know why I mentioned him. Why did I mention him? What were we talking about before that? We're talking about the atmosphere,
laminar flow or something.
the laminar flow. Oh yeah, the 2 scale thing. Like if you could do a 2 scale model of the laminar flow, like he did with the 2 scale light. It was like
The only thing that should matter is the smoothness. Because the only thing that should matter is the smoothness of the ball. Because what happens is the fluid gets entrained in the rotation and goes along with it, but we should be able to figure out how far away that would go, or whether it would happen at all. I don't think anything would happen. I think there'd be no laminar flow. I think it would just spin. I didn't think it would spin and cause turbulence, so I don't think it would be any
we would be
laminar
dead.
flow.
We would be dead. We would be dead.
You're looking for no drag and no resistance, right? From both objects?
Well, you can't have both. You can't have no resistance and no drag.
Yeah, you can. They're the same thing.
Well, the
right?
resistance is what causes the drag, I thought, right?
No, so you know what laminar flow is? Is when a fluid is going through something, or it's on some solid surface, it'll stick to it a little bit, right? And if that surface
like a little
is moving,
layer.
It's like a little layer.
Surface layer. Yeah, that's all it is.
Yeah, but it doesn't happen all the time.
And
It happens in some situations. It's not like a universal thing that happens. It depends on the geometry.
In the world.
Yeah, it depends on the geometry or whatever it
Everything
is you
just seems
created.
still. Everything just seems perfectly still because it's perfectly being dragged along. So much so we can't even tell
So,
at all.
yeah, you ever seen a Tesla
That makes
turbine?
no sense.
You ever seen a Tesla turbine?
Yeah. Oh no, actually, I don't think I have.
It's like a bunch of discs. And these discs, because it uses laminar flow as a pump. So but think of like people have made these out of like compact discs. So imagine like a whole bunch of discs stacked, and there's a little teeny space between all the discs, and you spin this up at high RPM, and because of the large surface area of all these discs, it'll create a laminar flow, and it'll make the fluid flow. Now it doesn't have a lot of power, but you can't clog it, so that's the good thing, right? So it can't jam or get some shit in it. Right, and because this disc, it'll actually chop up they use it for sewage, right? So it'll chop up that chunky shit, literally, and fucking, it'll flow through the pipe. But the thing is, that's only in some situations. They're saying a fucking sphere is creating a fucking laminar flow and dragging the fucking air around at a varying thickness, right? Thickness.
That makes no sense
And
at all.
it's just
It doesn't
like,
even follow the fluid dynamics. Wouldn't even work that way. I mean, like you can't treat gases like they're a material block. You know,
Right, but
can't stay,
Yeah, I know.
stay together that way. It's just ridiculous.
but what I was saying is you need no resistance or no drag for the thing that you want to tell. If the other thing for like a reference frame. So if you want to see if something is moving, right, and they keep saying, okay, you need something that horizontally has no drag or no resistance, but the object does have drag or resistance vertically. It's kind of locked in place vertically, superconductor. But
that's what I'm trying to figure out, dude.
Yeah,
I'm trying to figure out,
telling you,
get from a Goldberg, at what altitude am I out of the laminar flow? At what altitude am I not in the layer that's sticking to the earth that's spinning around with it? How high do I got to go?
They don't have an answer for that. Of course they don't.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean I can't force them to give me an answer.
Well, yeah, then you're just forcing them to make something up or run away. Yeah, that's fun. It is. Because that's all they can do. Right? There's no answer for that.
So we can, like, the whole thing is, if they give you a hard number, right? So they say, 10 kilometers. Okay. So the radius of 10 kilometers, right? So if I go up to 10 kilometers in a balloon, and I'm out of the laminar flow, and the Earth is spinning, I should lag behind the fucking Earth by this much feet per second, or, miles per second, whatever it is. And we should see if that actually happens instead of the balloon just hovering in fucking place, which is what it actually does, right? It just sits above the fucking Earth unless there's winds blowing it around.
Right. And the thing is that they say the winds, when there's winds, that's when the atmosphere is not in sync with the Earth. That's when they actually have the winds. That's the only reason there is winds, actually, is because the atmosphere is not in sync. But if there's no wind, that's when it happens to be in perfect sync, which makes
So there's a laminar flow with wind in it. That's fucking so stupid.
And going in the opposite
stupidly
direction.
unbelievable.
Yeah, you're gonna have like a blender with some of the fruit going the opposite direction of the flow. No, you never have that.
Yeah, that's right. The fucking dude. Yeah, some of the fruit is like making little vortexes in the middle of it, right?
Yeah,
Little vortex.
Just randomly, right, and also going the opposite direction at like a really harsh speed for no reason, right? The opposite direction completely of the flow of the river or the blender or whatever. It doesn't make it's completely the opposite of intuitive.
It's ludicrous.
Not even possible.
It's totally ludicrous.
It's ludicrous.
No.
They flipped.
No, they didn't kill him.
What happened?
Nobody was ever killed due to their belief in heliocentrism. Not once.
Wait, I'm pretty sure they killed him. No. They flipped. What happened to him? He was on house arrest. The Roman Catholics actually became the biggest purveyors of the Big Bang Theory. The Big Bang was invented by a Jesuit priest.
Wait, he was sentenced to life imprisonment. Spent the rest of his life under house arrest in Florence. Come on, that's...
Yeah, I can believe that. Listen, the Roman Catholic Church invented the Big Bang Theory.
Yeah. Wasn't it the Big Bang Theory? I mean, there are multiple theories to it.
Georges Lemaitre invented the Big Bang Theory. He was a Roman Catholic Jesuit priest.
It falls under the presumption that the universe is expanding. Therefore, it must have been compressed into a single point, right?
which is fundamentally Kabbalistic.
What does that mean?
This comes from Kabbalah, from the idea of emanations, which preceded a lot of Gnostic influences regarding the.
By the way, I am a Gnostic.
Okay. All right. So the uncreated light of the universe is responsible for the Big Bang because it basically withdrew itself from itself, and by withdrawing itself, it created a vacuum, which created a positive explosion of the universe. That's basically what the Big Bang is.
Yes. To my understanding, of course. My humble understanding.
Yeah, it's a bunch of baloney.
I am eating some bolognas now.
If it's pork derived, I love
No,
you, man.
It's beef. It's beef. We don't have
Okay.
pork here, so. Are you
some
like what?
Try some pork, man. Bacon is the best.
I did try bacon. I loved it.
Good. Okay.
When I traveled outside of these Muslim countries. But okay, do you think this is derived from the whole creation myths? I used to study anthropology at a certain point.
Oh, cool.
At
Okay.
my bachelor year. First bachelor year, I used to study anthropology. I was like interested in it, and I used to read about like the creation myths.
Yeah. I mean, many creation myths are Kabbalistic. And I would say even the Vedic texts come from Babylon, which is the root of Kabbalah itself.
Yes. Most of them approach the celestial bodies as levels, sort of.
Right.
Like if you take the Greek, let's go beyond. I mean, before the monotheistic religion started to show, like when we go to pantheons, and before that as well, to myths. Most beliefs rotated around the idea of multiple dimensions that exist within one realm. And in order to ascend from one realm, you need to shed every connection you have to the realm you're in. Like if we take, for example, Norse mythology, the tree of the realms. In order for you to travel between those realms, you need to be a certain kind of, like humans, for example, in Midgard, they cannot travel to Niflheim without severing every connection they have to Midgard, right?
Yeah, I got to shed the dead weight. I gotcha.
I am sort of falling into, like I said, I've been reading a lot about Gnosticism. Specifically, I bought a copy of the Gospel of Judas and the Gospel of Mary, and the ones that they found, and blah blah blah. And I'm reading a lot into them, and I'm reading a lot into the whole mythos of how the universe came into being, and it falls under the same idea of layers and dimensions. Except with Gnosticism, it's not the same realm. It's actually a different one, the material realm. And I remembered it because when someone here, what's his name? Jimmy Neutron, that's all I remember. He told me that it's a realm, the material realm. That kind of makes sense when you look at it from a Gnostic point of view. But at the same time, it's flawed, so meh.
Yeah, but within this paradigm, right, within materialism itself, we use matter to measure itself, matter, and we discover that there's no curvature. The curvature that exists, the globe, is not material. This is in your mind.
Okay, I believe you.
People who call themselves surveyors and geodesists, so geodesy is the so-called measurement of the globe. They begin with measurements of the Earth using triangles, point to point to point to point. They actually measure the Earth flat in reality. And you know what they do? They say, I distrust what I actually measured in reality because reality is illusion. It's Maya, right? It is in a higher realm, and I am being deceived. So what I must do to make these measurements conform to what I think is real is to select a mathematical model of the Earth called a datum, D-A-T-U-M. And I'm going to take these measurements and I'm going to bend them. I'm going to take these flat triangles, these horizontal triangles, these vertical triangles. I'm going to bend the math to fit this curved datum. And then I know it's got to be true. And how do I know that the curved datum is true? Because it's how I interpret the stars to behave as I move. This has been going on for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. They measure the Earth flat. And then, because they're conforming to an ideal in their mind, they take their perfectly good flat Earth measurements and they break them. This has been the human condition. Yeah, we can prove it. I can prove it by showing you their own textbooks, their own lectures. I can show you their own mathematical processes, their philosophical thinking, everything. There's a book, a famous 2-volume set written in the late 1800s by F.R. Helmert. He was a German mathematician and scientist. He fancied himself a surveyor, a measurer of the Earth. And he wrote a book called Higher Geodesy in German. And it's been translated in English. This 2-volume set serves as a foundation for modern geodetic measurements. Within these 2 volumes, he outlines a 10-step process in mathematics and measurements. The first part involves these measurements of the Earth. You go out, you take what's called the theodolite. You basically measure the azimuthal angles between 2 points of interest. You measure their vertical height and elevation. You do this a bunch of times over a bunch of points of interest. You're going to get a flat Earth. And he says, aha, but we know the Earth is not flat. And therein lies the philosophical presumption of a globe. Aha, we know the Earth is not flat. We have to contort and move this stuff. Why? Because when we look at the stars, we imagine a globe. Right? I mean, this goes back to the Greeks. So because we imagine the sky to be a globe, we're going to imagine that Earth is a globe. And if the Earth is going to be a globe that conforms to how we imagine the sky to be, the Earth is going to be this big. And it's going to be of this dimension. So we're going to take those azimuthal angles and elevation angles, and we're going to select one of these models of the globe. And by his day, in the late 1800s, there were many different models of a globe, mathematical models. There's the Airy ellipsoid of the 1820s, the Clark ellipsoid of the 1860s, the Bessel ellipsoid of the 1840s. There are so many different models. They were not all in agreement. He said, basically pick one. And if you want, use an average of them, right? And you're going to take your flat measurements. And as he walks you through the 10 steps, you're going to build a globe out of your flat Earth measurements. You're going to use the globe model. You're going to use globe refraction ideas. You're going to use astrogeodetic surveys of the stars, and you're going to take your flat Earth measurements, and you're going to use all these things, and you're going to break them. You're going to break them in such a way that conforms to an ideal that doesn't exist in reality. And that is what geodesy is. This is what NASA used to launch satellites. They never measured the Earth. So what's funny is we can actually look back in time throughout human history and show you all the flat Earth measurements before they were perverted with these globe models. We can do the same thing today. We can go out and measure it. We've got field engineers, credentialed experts with lasers that cost 30 grand on custom-built gimbals that have sub-millirad accuracy. And they've gone all over the Earth, at least from Western to Eastern Europe, from the Netherlands to Hungary. And they've measured the Earth. They can't find curvature anywhere. We can point to you measurements taken from the military. We've got a great example from, I think it was from the Big Island in Hawaii to Maui, or Maui to Hawaii. There was a 149 kilometer tri-band laser propagation that was done by the US government. On top of one of these volcanoes, it might have been Mauna Kea. They've got this observatory, they've got this laser set, and they shot lasers 149 kilometers. 3 of them to make a precise target grouping on a telescope on the receiver side. The point of this test was to determine whether or not there was terrestrial refraction. That is are there conditions that bend these lasers around the globe? Well, let me backtrack a bit. When they shot these lasers, they actually had no test in mind, but they shot the lasers to a target, and a bunch of nerds came by and said, let's come up with tests and explanations and experiments for this. So there are a few guys that came along. They studied the propagation path, 149 kilometers, and they tried as they may to retrofit terrestrial, that is globe curvature refraction formulas, to explain how it is possible that these 3 different lasers at 3 different frequencies are able to hit a target of such a tight grouping that is beyond the order of diffraction limits of the laser itself. And they couldn't come up with an explanation. They had to develop a custom model a custom model involving a combination of terrestrial refraction, because they believed in the globe, plus turbulence to explain the propagation path. In other words, they shot a perfectly clear line of sight, 149 kilometers, without any globe curvature present, and they had to backfit globe curvature into the explanation in order to explain what happened without any real-world measurements. So you got that going on. Then around the same time, coincidentally, you had military surveyors in the Chesapeake Bay region. The Chesapeake Bay is outside Washington, D.C. It's a nice part of the earth where you can pull up some delicious blue crab. If you tie some spent chicken wings to kite string, you can lob it into the water. The crab's going to lob onto it, and you're going to pull them up, and you can net them, put them in your cooler, bring them home, and boil them with Old Bay. Yes, I've done that. So they were shooting lights across the Chesapeake Bay, right?
Uh-huh.
They purposefully positioned a ladder of lights such that the bottom light would be below the curvature of the Earth from an infrared telescope on the other side of the Chesapeake. What they found was they could see that bottom light across the Chesapeake. And what frustrated them is this was their control variable. This was the light that they were supposed to use to control for the curvature of the Earth. And their point was to study the marine layer, the sub and super refraction effects from the diurnal cycle, the day and night cycle of the sun, and the seasons to see how much distortion, optical distortion, there would be from the point of observation to the point of interest across the Chesapeake Bay. So the bottom light served as a control variable for the freaking globe. And you know what? They saw the bottom light in conditions that didn't make sense whatsoever. They called the situation cursed. This was two teams of military surveyors working under a NATO contract funded by the Naval Research Lab of the US military. The project was called NATO Sapphire. You can Google this, you can pull up their papers, and you can check it out for yourself. They called the situation cursed. They were trying to control for the curvature of the Earth, and they couldn't freaking do it. And so they decided to go with the curvature of the Earth anyway. And you know what they did? They backfitted their data as if the curvature of the Earth existed, which required them to modify the temperature gradient by 2 orders of magnitude in order to explain the amount of curvature that they thought was present that really wasn't in real life.
Just a second. What was was it NATO Sapphire?
Yeah, Sapphire.
Sapphire. Yeah, I had a watch. I mean, the results came in with a watch, a hand watch, a wrist watch. Can you specify?
It was with the watch. Something came with a watch.
I typed in NATO Sapphire, and the results were a wristwatch. So can you give me another
maybe a PDF? Put PDF next to it. You might get maybe a PDF.
I'll post the PDFs in the chat.
Okay, Sapphire optical smallsat AIT. Is that it? No. Refraction measurements and modeling over during Sapphire Trail, however, we're able to arrange at zodiac order level.
All right, I posted the PDFs.
How can I know it's not furry porn?
Don't be stupid, dude. Come on.
Swear to God, if it's furry porn, I swear to God. God damn it, it's not furry porn.
I'll post the other papers I referenced earlier to the 149-kilometer tri-band laser propagation. So the so what for that is listen. So they use 3 different bands of frequencies. Refraction is frequency dependent. So lower frequencies are going to bend less through the medium than higher frequencies. What they were looking for specifically was the target grouping of 3 different frequencies, one in deep infrared, one near infrared, and one in visual spectrum. They wanted to see how much these 3 different lasers had diverged as a consequence of globe curvature refraction. They were surprised to find that 3 lasers actually hit the target and hit them much more closely together than they thought they would, which means terrestrial refraction as an explanation for seeing things too far is a whole load of crap. If you want those papers, I'll post those too.
Emperor's Child's going to have 6 months worth of research to do by the time he leaves this conversation.
Yeah, you guys gave me a lot of sources that I need to actually read, and I have to prepare my bachelor. I'm making a study on addicted people and their cognitive capacities, and you guys give me this, and now I have to read this and do my research at the same time. So, damn it.
Just one thing I wanted to add as well. You were saying earlier, extremely long observations would be better, but if gravity, right, the way it's claimed to exist on a globe, okay, if everything's being pulled towards the center of mass, okay, that would mean that any body of water okay, of substantial distance would be able to be calculated, we would be able to tell exactly how much it would have to be curving. Okay, if the globe was to be real, if gravity were to be doing as it should in that claim, right? Just 10 miles, right? 10 miles, 20 miles, that's plenty, right? There's a huge amount of curvature over these distances, and it would have to be there. If it's not there, okay, then it's a big problem for the globe.
Hey, when was that? Did you guys read about that paper when they said like the Earth was not a sphere, it was a potato? The shape-wise, of course.
Yeah, it's like the gravitational model. They're not saying it's literally that shape.
Yeah, like it's like a rough-shaped potato.
Right.
Oh, you guys are not debunking gravity, right? Like,
well, flat water debunks the claim of gravity, essentially.
Even if it's flat, it's like it's laying on, like, for something to, like, even if the Earth was flat, it needs something to pull everything down, unless
not everything.
The claim of gravity is a philosophical claim. Nobody's ever used a scientific experiment to identify the cause of gravity.
Wait, gravity doesn't
not the
pull gas
cause,
down,
of course,
okay?
the effects. We know the effects of gravity.
No, gravity does not pull gas down, period.
I'm not talking about gas. I'm talking about
but you
water.
said everything.
Like you told me water.
Gravity does not pull anything at all. It doesn't
mean it doesn't pull anything at all.
It doesn't hold the gas against the vacuum of space.
What is keeping, like, if the Earth is flat and like
no vacuum of space, dude?
Hey, don't yell at me. I'm sensitive.
I just did. I'm sorry.
Try and pay attention then. He won't have to raise his voice if you'll pay attention the first time.
Oh my God! I hope you don't become a father, man.
Deal with it.
Let's do this a different way.
Fatherless behavior.
Let's do this a different way. Can someone tell us what gravity is and what it does?
Oof. Why did this suddenly turn very violent?
No, it's all good. Let's just carry on. It's fine.
It's not violent.
Why did this turn so violent?
What is gravity and what does it do?
Says who? We've been on with this guy for like an hour and 20 minutes.
Right. I've been in and out listening to it. I mean, he's got some staying power. It's just, after a while, if you believe that gravity is a thing, what is it and what does it do?
Ever see Kindergarten Cop? Like Kindergarten Cop with Arnold Schwarzenegger? Who is your daddy and what does he do?
Yeah, exactly. There seems to be a lot of disagreement among people who believe in the globe about what gravity is and what it does, and the current rhetoric around what it is. And sometimes they'll combine the current rhetoric with an older rhetoric and try to shoehorn one into the other. And I'm just curious, what is it and what does it do?
It's basically an attraction that pulls masses together, basically.
It is an attraction that pulls masses together.
Yeah.
I don't ever see this occurring anywhere in nature. Yeah, where does that happen?
Your feet are on the ground. You're a
Welcome to circular logic, Mr. Psychology Man.
Yeah, that's circular, bro.
What do you mean circular?
Don't tell me. Well, at this point, we have a baseless assertion. So you're saying your feet are on the ground because of gravity. Okay, well, what is gravity and what does it do?
It's the thing that pulls me back to the ground when I jump.
Basically. Okay, is it made of something?
That's true, dude. So, I'm going to ask you, what is your evidence that gravity's responsible for the thing that pulls you to the ground?
It's not.
You're going to answer the thing is pulling me to the ground. I'm going to say that's circular reasoning, dude. And you're going to be like,
okay, tell me what it is. Okay, let me ask you this. What is pulling me to the ground when I jump?
Nothing's pulling you to the ground.
Why am I not flying then?
Hold on, bro. That's for you to answer. You're asked. This is a burden of proof reversal. It's a fallacy.
No, I'm asking.
You're saying that something is pulling us to the ground. I don't experience anything pulling me to the ground, nor does anybody else.
Oh, you're floating?
Yeah, and says it's even worse than that. He thinks you're going to fly.
Right.
He thinks you're going to fly somehow.
Why would I float?
Check the side chat. You do not understand your own worldview.
I do not understand my own.
Why is flying an alternative, dude? Why would you think you would fly?
Because on a globe.
Yeah, because on a globe, you think without gravity, you're going to fly. It's circular reasoning.
Exactly. So it goes like this, right? Gravity because I'm on the ground. I'm on the ground because gravity.
It's my explanation. It's not gravity. It's a thing that I used, an arbitrary word that explains why I am on the ground. And why when I jump off a cliff, I fall and my speed accelerates to the point where my bones crash.
Holy cow, dude. Do you hear yourself right now talking out loud? You should go on the YouTube and play this back. That's silly.
It's funny, he doesn't need gravity to explain that. Relative density does.
Just a second. Am I hearing myself when I say that if I jump off a cliff, something will pull me down, a force will pull me down to the ground?
That's an assumption. Yeah, it's an assumption.
What if you jumped into a pool of water?
Yeah? What about it?
It would stop you from hitting the ground, right?
If I jump into a pool of water, I will fall into the water.
Yeah, and you'll float on the water, right? Like you won't be falling with gravity.
Depending on the height. If it's too high, then the surface tension will function as a solid.
If you jumped off a cliff and you were holding onto a bunch of helium balloons, you'd float up.
Yeah, you're still giving us the observation, right? The observation is in air, I go down. Okay, I'm going to ask you why. You're going to say gravity. I'm going to say, what is that? You're going to say it's the thing that makes me go down, and we'll just be in this circular loop.
What is your explanation to it then?
Explanation for what?
Or what makes me fall down when I jump?
Nothing makes you fall. You just do.
You are more dense than the medium you're in.
So what you're saying? What?
You are more dense than the medium you're in, dude.
Exactly. Look, you guys on the globe side, right? You need to have some type of force or pseudo force, right, pulling you back down to the Earth in some way, right? Because you think that you live in a big space vacuum, and you know, you would just fly off into space, right? All the gas, everyone would die, all the water would boil, blah blah blah. Okay, so you need to be able to explain all of these things, like all of the oceans sticking to the outside of a ball, people sticking to the outside of a ball, and all of that kind of thing, and not flying off into space. We don't have that issue in reality. Okay, so you need to have gravity to have a globe. Okay, and you need to have a globe to have gravity. Okay, whereas on a flat stationary system, things will rise or sink due to their density in relationship with the density of the surrounding medium. Okay, so that will basically dictate which direction an object will go. Okay, if you drop a tennis ball in the air, it's going to sink through the air because it's more dense in the air. If you change the medium from air to water, the tennis ball is going to go upward. Okay, and also, right, there's also a displacing force as well. Okay, there's going to have to be some energy exchange to pick something up for it to move in the first place. Otherwise, it will just sit in equilibrium forever. Like a rock sitting on the ground, it's never going to move. If you come along and you exchange some of your energy, you pick up the rock, and then you release the rock, it's going to sink back down to where it was, right? The only reason it moves is because you picked it up and you dropped it. You input energy into that object.
Okay, now I see.
Yeah, and we can vary and manipulate this, right? Let's say we have a glass of fresh water and we grab an egg, okay, and we put the egg in the glass of fresh water. It's going to sink down to the bottom because the egg's more dense than the fresh water. Now, we could vary and manipulate the medium. Okay, not touching the egg, just add some salt into the water, and now you're going to watch that egg change direction. It's going to go from sitting at the bottom, and it's going to go upward, and it's going to rise up to the top. The only thing that was changed was the density of the liquid medium in that case. Okay, so that's why anything that you can think of in nature goes up or down.
Kind of makes sense when you consider that for avians, they need to have hollow bones in order to minimize their density so that they can fly.
Precisely. There's no need for gravity. It's not a real thing.
Hey, you could have explained it like DJ did right now instead of just going on loops. Come on.
No, well, look, sometimes I think we have to get people to think critically for themselves. That's why we ask questions. What is gravity?
Yeah,
and what does it do?
Explanations to it, and you kept making fun of me. Like, that's not how it works.
Different people have different ways to present it. Look, if you talk to me, I would say gravity is a statistical distribution.
Rara. That's so sexy.
I know, I am.
Statistical distribution.
Statistical distribution, right? Right. You're gonna find mass where it's more prevalent. Just so happens that the ground you're walking on is one of the walls of the container that is encasing the air that we breathe. And it just so happens the ground you're walking on is the production source of the gases that you breathe. So statistically, you're going to find a higher prevalence of the gases that you breathe near the surface where it's produced that you're walking on. Yeah, the gas you breathe does not come from outer space, dude.
Has anybody clarified that we do not claim that it's some kind of Pizza Planet space frisbee with this guy
That'd
yet?
be a good point of clarification. Thank you, Ethergrass. Yeah, flat earthers, no pizza disk in outer space. If you think that flat earthers think that flat Earth is a floating space pizza, nope, not us.
Oh, flat Earth is not flat, dude.
Well, it's also, a topographical plane.
Okay. A topographical plane with no borders.
Not that we know of. I mean, there is an upper limit defined by the gas pressure.
So there is an altitude, but there is no, like I said, there are some altitudes, but there is no border to where it ends, where it starts.
No.
Okay.
Right. We live within a limited volume.
Limited volume.
Right. So basic gas laws. So if you were to take all the gas laws you learned in physics in high school and shake them up and plop them out on a table, you would end up with PV equals nRT. Pressure times volume equals number of moles times the gas constant times temperature. The V, pressure times volume in the beginning, the V is absolutely limited. If the V were infinity, we could not be breathing stable pressurized gas. whatsoever. The V is limited. So it causes us to ask ourselves, if V cannot be infinity because we're breathing gas, does that mean that our existence has a limitation to it? The answer is yes. There is a limit. There's a defined volume. This is the law of gas. This is the law of nature. This is thermodynamics. And if you're going to argue against the laws of thermodynamics, you're going to have a bad time, let me tell you.
Question the words of the mighty Jimmy.
Yeah, man. If you're going to argue against the laws of thermodynamics, in the words of Heisenberg from Breaking Bad, you're going to have a bad time. I mean, it's true. Like everything. I mean, this is all about energy transfer at the core of it. Energy and matter cannot be created nor destroyed. Guess what? We have a stable gradient of gas pressure. That means our volume is fixed. That means we are in a giant container. Is it a fish tank? I don't freaking know.
Oh, so at the core
could be really freaking big though.
Right?
Yeah.
So at the core of this belief,
No, but
you guys don't know. No one knows.
Yeah, it's so full of academic humility. It's going to make your heart warm. You're going to be like, oh my gosh, these flat earthers, they have so much academic humility. They're not arrogant. I want to be a flat earther. I want to be part of them because I experienced humility and humbleness in my own life, and I want more of that for myself.
I mean, all right, the way you're selling it.
It's totally true.
Credit card. Okay.
Dude, I don't have a PhD. I got 2 master's degrees. I hope that counts for something.
Just remember, everyone here has already demonstrated that we're capable of changing our minds, and we interact with bigots who do not change their mind every single day. We've already shown that we can.
What do you mean? Is that a threat?
I'm saying that we speak with people who never have never changed their minds in their entire life, and they act like we're the ones who are closed-minded. Meanwhile, they treat us. They act like bigots towards us. They're highly offensive, and they go out of their way to do so. Meanwhile, we try and be respectful like this, how we are with you, every day.
Yeah. Well, that's nice.
Right. And this topic may raise more unanswered questions, right? Than would be hoped for, right? Because at the core of the entire heliocentric model, right, the current mainstream cosmological view of reality is a globe Earth, right? And that requires its surface to have curvature. And if we come along and demonstrate that it doesn't have that requirement, then that entire model, that entire ideology falls apart. Everything about it, everything. And if that raises more questions for you, that's fine. It doesn't mean that someone's going to be able to answer them and replace every question that you had an answer for previously.
I have questions. I get it. It doesn't bother me that I have questions or that I have more questions now because, I don't care. I have been swallowed by academia and I have a lot of questions all the time. So, but you guys have,
and that's great.
You guys helped me with certain ideas now. That's pretty fucking nice.
Good. I mean, so if anything, we want this topic to open people's minds so that they can get out of the rut that they were brought up in and think about new possibilities. At the end of the day, Flat Earth is about critical thinking, if nothing else.
Okay.
This doesn't mean we're not Flat Earthers. This means we are absolutely 100%. And if we can leave you with a little nugget of information, we hope that you consider what we're saying seriously.
You guys, apparently you're not Flat Earthers. You're simply round Earthers.
That's a good insight, yeah. I mean, listen, I think the Earth is much more complicated than just being round in a globe or just flat.
You guys should change the name of the channel to non-globulars.
Yeah,
well, it's still flat, right? So you got to think of the context. Flat's not a shape, right? It's the description of a surface, and we're talking about, in this context, the surface of the water being flat. So most of the surface is made up of water.
No, I get it. I get this one. I'm talking about the taboo that was built around the sentence itself. The phrase itself, Flat Earthers. So basically,
go ahead.
Like when someone, when Jimmy Neutron told me, hey, Fulgrim, why did you leave? It's because, me, when I see someone saying Flat Earther, I get tinfoil hats, a bunch of, maniacs. But then, I mean, I don't judge people, and I always listen. I love listening to people and their theories, so that's why I listen. But if I bring a friend and tell him, okay, listen to these Flat Earthers, I'm pretty sure he's going to have a bad connotation based on his preconceived notions from the internet, from the culture around him.
Yeah.
That's why I said, like, if you change the name to non-globalists, okay, wait, people will start thinking you're far right.
Oh, we're definitely anti-globalist.
What do you mean anti? Yeah, but like globalist as in.
Listen, I got you. It's like, so when you go to court, right? When you go to court, you're not ruled innocent or guilty. You're ruled not guilty or guilty.
Yeah, it's like
so,
Nietzsche said.
Right. It goes back to like the hypothesis. You know, it goes back to the philosophy of science and reason and evidence. Can you actually prove that somebody is not guilty, or can you actually prove that somebody's innocent? Proving innocence is a lot harder than proving somebody's not guilty, and those are extremely distinct from one another.
Everything we do will never be faced with understanding. It will either be faced with disapproval or approval. That's a sentence.
Yeah, everybody wants to rule the world.
Yep. Yeah. So what I submit to you, like, listen, our community has been around for more than 10 years. We've got tons of content. We are not like the TikTok, Twitter, Facebook flat earthers that you find when you do the typical, Google search or whatever. We're fundamentally different than all of those. And I think our community actually spawned a lot of sub-communities that gone out and have done crazy things. If you have a friend, a professor, somebody that you want to introduce to flat earth, bring them here, have them listen to our YouTubes. If you look at the top, we have 2 YouTube streams, 2 bots. And these are going out to Rumble and X. So we're broadcast to the world.
Hey, wait. I have to read what you guys provided me with first. So I'll have to spare some time to read those things you sent, especially the PDFs. And those, what's his name again?
Visit our home server, dude. We got terabytes.
Hey, you don't want me to... Come on, man. Don't send me down a rabbit hole yet.
We got
home server. We got 30,000 members. We've got multiple terabytes of info. Discord.gg/flat earth.
Okay, let me first finish my work with addicted people, and then I'm going to go back to this.
Yeah, you're going to be one of those addicted people because you're going to be coming back again and again. You're going to have sleepless nights, just like an addicted person who's trying to get off of the globe. In this case, you'll be like, dude, what do these flat earthers got going on? I want to be part of them.
I mean, fair enough. Okay, that's a claim. That's a claim. That's a claim. Is anyone here schizophrenic by any chance?
Nope, totally mentally competent and sane.
No,
I used to work in the aerospace industry for the U.S. government.
No, that's not what I mean.
Okay, before you reiterate your question again, do you know what psychological projection is?
I work with schizophrenics. It's not related to this topic. It's because
one could say it takes one to know one.
Certain addictive substances cause schizophrenia, so I wanted someone at least to talk to gather some data. So
no, dude, I like wine and beer. That's about it. And I got a professional life. I'm also about 50 years old and have kids and a family, so you're totally stable, not crazy.
Okay, I get it. It's a joke. Fair enough.
It's not a joke.
Hey man, the entire world's schizophrenic, just about. I mean, like, everybody's going about their daily lives operating as if the Earth is flat and motionless, observing it to be flat and motionless, right? And then coming into places like this and declaring that it's the exact opposite of what they experience.
Case in point. So listen, dude, I'm like, you watch a sunset and you think the world is turning backwards.
Exactly.
Okay.
You observe a horizontal horizon and you think it's curved.
What's it like? Cross my heart and swear to God, I only ask about schizophrenia because I need to work with the schizophrenic to deduce whether addiction had any effect on it.
Turns out they're right about flat Earth, right? Oh my God. They're wrong about everything else, but they're right about flat Earth.
Man, schizoid.
To act like the government is trustworthy at all is the most gaslighting shit you could do, especially knowing full well that things like the Tuskegee experiment happened. Come on now.
The government.
Come on.
The government did.
Don't be gaslighting people.
What the hell? Do not attribute me to those sons of bitches. Come on. Anyways, I have a lot of work to get to. So thanks for your time.
You sound tired, so.
Yeah.
Feel free to come back, man.
Yeah, and subscribe to our YouTube and Rumble and X accounts.
I'll be sure to take a lot of notes next time I come back about what you guys provided.
Yeah, wait till you hear some of our heavy hitters come in. I'm just like a porch dragon. I'm like the monkey class.
Monkey class.
Monkey class. Yeah, we got folks that have like brains that weigh 10 times as mine do come in. And they're flat earthers. So yeah, you just basically talk to the court jester.
Don't sell yourself short.
Yeah,
Dude, I
that's,
am. I'm
that's
the
not true
freaking
at
court
all.
jester, dude. I'm wiping my ass with my bare hands and wiping it on the wall right now, compared to the kinds of people that come in after me.
Are you trying to sway me with hyperbole?
Yeah.
It worked. Congratulations.
But it's been a good conversation. I've enjoyed listening to it. So thank you, Emperor's Child, for coming in and being so polite. You know, it's been great to listen to, man. And hopefully you come back again sometime.
Of course, I'll try. When I feel competent enough, I'll come back with the knowledge you guys provided. And thanks for your time as well.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all across the plane. Candace Owens lost her marbles. Holy crap. Did you see her latest video? For the audience listening, she basically thinks Charlie Kirk was a time-traveling soldier from the multiverse. He saw the future, as it is claimed. And somehow his death altered the timeline of history for the future of man. Like, that kind of level crazy. Crazier than Flat Earth, am I right? The latest in space news, brought to you by Crit. Looks like there's a satellite deorbit that's happening, and a clock that's counting down. What was it, in 3 days? We could expect to see some fireworks in the sky. Is that right? I didn't read into the article, so I'm unsure if this is some kind of scheduled deorbit or if this is due to some geomagnetic activity, solar weather activity. When I first started to take a hard look at Flat Earth, we were already locked down in the economy. And it was so easy to do because conspiracy theories were already flying everywhere, every which way, about everything you could imagine. Flat Earth seemed to be just another one of those conspiracy theories. I was bored, and I'd heard about it before, and I said, you know what, I'm going to go take a look at this. And when you were feasting on Flat Earth back then, you had this whole table of nonsense to pick from. It was associated with just about every other conspiracy theory imaginable. Because that's, after all, what it was for most people back then, including me. It was tied into the moon landings. It was even tied into the freaking Titanic. Hindenburg, mud floods. It was all seemingly connected. And Flat Earth seemed to be like a linchpin that was holding the entire web of conspiracies together. I really did think that at one point. And over time, as my interest deepened in the subject, started to realize that Flat Earth really stands alone. While there are related topics to it, it really does stand alone. And it's not a conspiracy theory. Flat Earth and conspiracy theories belong in separate buckets entirely. There's no crossover. The reason why I say that is because nobody can hide the world from you. Nobody can hide how you experience and measure the world from you. Nobody has done that. It's impossible. You can't hide the natural world. You can't conceal natural discoveries like this. So people come in and say, if the Earth is flat, doesn't that mean everybody has to be in on it? On the big scam, on the big concealment of the nature of Earth? And the answer is no. people aren't in on it any more than a religious leader who sincerely believes he's the second coming of Christ is in on it. People have a sincere belief that the earth is a globe. They teach their kids that the earth is a globe. You learn about the globe in classrooms. The globe is cool. The globe's in popular media. It's everywhere. You're entreated to a globe when you sit down and watch a movie. This isn't being done by any conscious effort to deceive you. This is just a cultural symbol at this point. What it comes down to is we're deceiving ourselves. You live on a flat world, you experience it flat, but when you turn on your navigation device, you're presented a globe. And so you believe that you're on that. You believe that you're on the map. And I think the only people that might come close to knowing that the earth is flat, despite their best efforts to work with the globe, are these people that work in space programs. And not everybody. I'm talking a very select few. There are probably a few people in the space programs. There are probably a few people working for U.S. Geological Survey, people that are involved in charting and maps, cartography. I'm sure there are some people that figured it out. And they have every reason to keep their mouth shut. They're probably surrounded at work all day, every day, by people who believe in the globe and haven't figured it out yet themselves. You know, there's probably a crisis of conscience happening amongst people like this and these occupying these positions. But the human mind is ever adaptable. Given enough time, they'll learn to deal with the conflict. Back when you first researched Flat Earth and you thought that this was the key that unlocked all these mysteries, you felt like that you'd just been endowed with a certain knowledge, certain power that gave you special insight into everything and anything in the world around you. And this is why we got so many Flat Earth content developers who hold themselves out as gurus, as guides, as sages, heroes, knowers. But if it's conspiracy theory ideation that brought you into this and you haven't left that mindset, you haven't switched over to the empirical mindset that's required to observe reality, measure and deduce it as it is, you're still stuck on feeding off of this nonsense train, you're probably not going to advance. You're probably not going to pick up and casually read mainstream physics and chemistry textbooks. You're probably not going to read literature pertaining to surveying and geology, because you're going to think that all of this scientism is bad and you're going to throw the baby out with the bathwater and say that's the end of it. Because you might think that flat Earth, your observable empirical reality, operates under a completely set of different physical principles than the actual laws of nature on which flat Earth is understood. You might be open to an idea of some mysticism, and along with that, some asceticism. You're going to think that there's a lot more to this, and in fact, there may be, but the fact of the matter is, flat Earth is a physical existence. It is objective, and it will continue on after you're dead. And most of these discoveries in what are called scientific fields today are completely legitimate. I'd go so far as to say that 99% of things that humans figured out and developed up until about the 1920s is pretty good, pretty well intact. But in the community, there's an aversion. The perception is that mainstream scientific claims cannot be trusted. And this claim is done without without individually and objectively evaluating those claims. It's all thrown out. Just nope, can't trust it. It's all scientism. I think a more careful examination is required. And you know what? Maybe math and science isn't for you. Maybe you're just not really too interested in this, and that's fine. Doesn't mean you can't speak about flat Earth or you can't defend your point of view on flat Earth. You can still go do that. You're just going to go about it in a different way. And there are plenty of people in this community who are extremely artistically inclined, visually inclined. And I think that's a very important trait to have. Being able to see the world and think about the world consistently, congruently with each other is really the whole point of what we're here for, is to help people to process their environment, their visual environment, so that they're no longer shoving their sensory input through a filter of perception that somebody else constructed for them to believe in. I think artists do a really good job at doing this, at separating the left and the right hemispheres and understanding when the left side of the brain takes over versus the right side of the brain takes over, as they're drawing and depicting things, as they're conjuring images in their mind or looking at the real world and drawing from still life. The well-practiced artist is really good at objectifying things properly. And I think that's a very valuable talent to have in this field. And you can talk about flat Earth in these ways too. You don't have to talk about Newton versus Einstein versus Maxwell versus whatever the hell. Like, you can just discuss the beauty of the natural world around you and how you see. Learning to draw with perspective. I mean, my goodness, how many people do we talk to that come in through these halls, and we try to describe in plain, simple terms how you see, and they have a problem with visual perception of perspective. You say, yeah, everything in your field of view appears to converge at a vanishing point. There's a vanishing line of a horizon separating Earth and sky. But things converge to a point, and that point is no bigger than 0.02 degrees on average for many people. Anything smaller than that cannot be resolvable. It doesn't mean you can't see the light, but this is why we can't see forever. And you can add on top of that all the conditions of the natural world, the air that you're breathing, nitrogen and oxygen and other things, water molecules, dust, dirt, particulates, pollution, dynamic systems of pressure mediation, high to low.
Yeah, dude, I was listening a little bit ago, like with the conspiracy theories really on the globe side. They've done things to silence minorities, silence dissent. They turned the topic about people, try to shift it that there's something wrong with the flat earther rather than the topic itself.
There's always that uncomfortable notion in their minds that the flat earther could be right. Our modern world is technologically advanced beyond recognition from every era that we have in recorded history, bearing no resemblance at all. And just like how dependent we are on electricity in modern infrastructure, if the power were to go out for 2 weeks where you live, all the food gets spoiled in these supermarkets, no more deliveries. Medicines that require refrigeration spoil. Your toilet stops flushing. Your water stops pumping. What do you do? Could be wintertime. It could get to 0 degrees or below outside. very quickly at night. What do? Do you live in a neighborhood? Everybody else is in the same condition. What do? Who do you trust? You know, people 100 years ago were in a much better position to handle this than we are today, that's for sure. As you go back further and further, people are better and better equipped to handle this baselining.
Yeah, the book written about it was called like I can't remember, like 7 Meals to Anarchy. They're saying now it's like half a meal, like maybe not even.
Yeah.
They said people back.
If you live in Europe, yeah.
Oh yeah, people back then had some kind of steady, way. They had their canned, preservatives. They had their a garden. They had well water. There's some little things here and there. So I think the book was called 7 Meals, but yeah, now it's like not even. I mean, people are so hopelessly dependent on the system, a system that doesn't care about them. Right. And the system could just as easily revoke all privileges without any appeal. And they would rather go online and screech about what flat earthers say in our own spaces, not bothering anyone else. See, my take is that they are trying to find some control. They're totally being controlled from the moment they wake up, the moment they open their eyes, and the moment they close them. So they think, if I can, exfluorinate, I have some control in the world.
Another theme is emerging. The primary theme being people confusing the map for the territory. People are confusing too. System users from system builders, right? So, hey, flat earther, what about all the pilots? What about all the astronomers? What about all the Windows users? Don't they know how to code an operating system? Does a pilot necessarily know how the map was developed?
How's everyone doing this morning?
Pretty good, man. Just driving around town.
Keeping it real.
Ah, man. You see any curvature?
No.
I stopped looking.
That's fair.
Apparently, you have to go all the way to outer space to see it. And no one's done so for over 60 years. In the 1960s, some people did something because God picked America to win the space race, because apparently God loves capitalism. And then the space age abruptly ends in 1972, and never again. But going to Mars is no problem, apparently, if you believe their story. So we'll see how that shakes out.
We'll see here pretty soon. They're supposed to circle around the moon or something. Orbit around. I'm starting to think that they didn't think NASA was going to go this far. I think it was all just propped up, and then eventually it was just a lie after a lie after a lie, and they can't go back now. I don't think it was meant to be this big. The globe
I'm
theory.
with you there. Dude, I've been thinking the same thing for years now. Yep. They've just doubled down. They had no way to back out of this. And the only way out of it is to just slam on the gas pedal. We're stuck with this until like America dissolves or something.
Yep. I think they're fucked.
So in that regard, right, like the UK was pretty smart. They never endeavored to put people on the moon. Russia pretended to want to put people on the moon, but they were careful. They were smart too, to an extent. It's almost like they trolled us, like the Russians trolled Americans to go the extra mile. And we took the bait and we ran with it. and we're like, oh shit.
Yeah, bro, there's no going back. They've already lied and said that they went to the moon. I mean, you had the president involved at that time as well. So there's no going back. Like we all know, well, some of us know that we didn't go to the moon, but it's
the moon topic. You don't need flat Earth for that. That's probably one of the best things about that. Like the moon mission, that right there was called out at the time. When it happened, people are like, "This is some of the biggest bullshit I've ever seen." Who's gonna fall for that? I mean, atheists.
I know people personally.
Yeah, atheists took it to court. Took them to court. Said, "Hey, how about you prove some of this stuff?" And they refused to give proof. They just kept playing legal trickery rather than present the proof in the court of law. So when people look at this, they're like, "Hey, how about what happened then? When did it switch? When did about half of Russians and 30% of millennials or whatever start thinking?" It was always that way. It's always been about 30% who absolutely believed it because of political reasons, about another 30% who really didn't know for sure, didn't care, and about 40% who were absolutely not. That is the most fakest, dumb shit they've ever tried to pull yet.
What amazes me is there are people who do not believe in the moon landing. They think it's all BS, along with other things, but they can't grasp flat Earth when we have proof. It's amazing to me because they're like, why would they lie to us? I mean, we clearly see they lied about this. Doesn't matter how big or small.
That's that Bart Sabel. Well, that Bart Sabel, one of the guys who's very active on YouTube, making astronauts gone wild. Something funny happened on the moon. He hates flat earthers, really hates flat earthers. Says that flat earthers are CIA without exception. Every single one of them, all flat earthers are CIA. So yeah, it's really interesting when you see people like that, because what he'll do is a flat earther will use some of his content. He'll report the channel for violations, copyright. Then if the clip doesn't get taken down, then he'll say, "Haha, CIA." If the clip does get taken down, he'll say, "Haha, CIA."
Once you go flat, man, you never go back. I don't ever see myself believing in the globe. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it is interesting when you get some of the people who do go back and you ask them, well, what was it that convinced you? What got you to go flat Earth and what got you to go back to the globe? They can never explain it. They can never say, "Oh yeah, I saw this evidence of a flat Earth, and now I saw this evidence of a globe." It's always some sort of performative art piece about people. We had this guy called Ranty. He has used to do long distance photography all the time. And suddenly out of the blue, this other guy he didn't like to begin with, called Bev, did his own long distance photography. And the guy's like, "That's a globe." And then he named himself Flurspective, so that everyone started calling him Flurf. And he gets pissed about that, and they laugh anyway, because they're like, "Hey, once a Flurf, always a Flurf." So then he goes on to cover some sort of meninism, sort of he thinks that men are being treated unfairly in society, like a male rights activist. At that point, hey, globalists have him. Take this guy. He's too retarded for this topic.
If there was one thing, and I know I'm reaching, but if there was one thing that would convince you that we're on a globe, what do you think it would be? One
Proof of curvature. An observation, a measurement, something showing the Earth is curved. Even smallest amount. Even if they say, hey, we were wrong about 39.59, it's like, 68.58 or whatever. Some level of curvature or motion. That'd be another good one too. Say, hey, you can't detect curvature because of X, Y reasons, refraction or something. The optical, the atmosphere just constantly distorts your vision to make it always appear flat. Your eye converts the information or whatever. But here is proof of rotation, axial rotation.
Yeah, that'd be very strong evidence for me too. If somebody could set a gyro somewhere, in fact, I'd request several gyros to be set up at specific locations and then film them, watch them all, and see what they do over the course of 24 hours.
That's why we say thanks, Bob. Bob Nodell. Yeah. He set up he did the gyro experiment and was able to manipulate local variables to get independent results. He got from like 2 degrees of rotation to like 30 degrees. And even if you take his data and like do weighted averages and all kinds of happy horse shit, it doesn't even get close to 15.04. Not even close. Even with like a margin of error, just like say, hey, we're just going to bake in the margin of error, use weighted averages. It's like one of the funny things where the globalists thought they had won because they got a little bit of a soundbite, out of context soundbite. And they thought, oh, here it is. So he finally drops the data. And people run the numbers. At the best, at the very best, if you give all the charity to the globe side, the flat earther set it up wrong. The flat earther didn't use weighted averages. The flat earther didn't wait for it to warm up, everything. Their best sample size got to like 14.2 degrees per hour. Even with the margin of error of the device, it's not even there. It's not to the 15.04 they would need. So it falsified axial rotation because your Earth would have to maintain a 15.04 axial rotation continuously nonstop. It can't slow up and speed down. It's got to be 15.04 or nothing at all. Any other result is a falsification.
And you're going to have to set up, I think, different gyros at different points on Earth because that 15.04 degrees is going to be divided amongst the different axes of the gyroscope. So, for example, if you set one up at the equator and Earth is a globe, then it's only going to rotate in one axis. If you set one up at the North Pole, it's going to rotate on another axis. But if you set it up at like 45 degrees north latitude, it's going to have to rotate across 3 axes. You're going to need pitch, roll, and yaw. You're going to be able to monitor this. And if you set up gyroscopes at different locations, initialize them all at the same time, and then go, you should be able to see that the gyroscopes are maintaining rigidity in space relative to the housing that's rotating around them along these different axes that accords with a rotation at different points on the surface of a spinning globe. And something like this seems rather trivial here in the 21st century, and it's never been done. If these optical gyros indeed behave the way that they're claimed, then show us that, then use them.
Maybe it was done.
The sensors are a bit noisy, they say. What, DJ?
I said maybe it was done. It didn't work out. The results didn't come in.
Yeah, and they're like, oh shit, we better pretend like this never happened. Yeah, it's an interesting take. Like, maybe it was done, and that's why we haven't heard about it.
You know what else has probably been done like 100,000 times more than what we've gone out and done is measuring over long distance with high end optics and infrared and stuff like that. I bet people have gone out extensively, especially anti-flat earthers, and tried to do long distance observations and then not release the results because they're not going to help their case at all. Because there's no way that flat earthers could have this many published observations and the globe earthers have fuck all.
Yeah, that's a good point. It brings to mind something I've been talking about recently, the Sophia telescope. For those that don't know, there was an exact replica of the Hubble Space Telescope that was put inside a modified 747 jet, and it was flown around the Earth. This program was decommissioned recently within the last few years. This telescope had, amongst other features, high-end infrared optics, and they claim to have done horizon studies with it. Isn't that interesting? Imagine if Jay Tolan had access to something like this. So I'm like, great, show me some of the footage. Where can I go on NASA's website to retrieve all the footage that Sophia took of these long distance infrared horizon zooms? And guess what? The footage has been taken down. The databases are not for public use anymore. Apparently they were up at one point, maybe before Flat Earth was popular, I don't know. But NASA acknowledges that they took the databases offline and they're not for the public anymore. Isn't that something? That's something. There we go. Thank you, old dude, for posting a picture. About the best we have are P900s taken on airplanes. But it's enough. Man, imagine that thing. Holy crap. Like, it's a lens the size of a car, an aperture the size of a basketball. Right, I have to step away for a bit. I'll be back online in a few.
All right, sounds good.
What a time to be alive, man. So without all this technology back then, people would just have to take NASA's word.
No, not at all. Yeah, the people at the time, right now, don't take government's word for it. I mean, people, yeah. So people say like, "Oh, government said something," but yeah, even in the 1960s, with all the technology and whatnot, people called out. Like I said, the American Atheist Association, ran by Madeleine O'Hair, said, "Let's see the evidence that you went to the moon." Took him to court. Took him to a court of law. Sued NASA for the evidence for they went to the moon. And instead of presenting the evidence, having the astronauts testify in court, they played legal trickery to move the case to court, till they eventually got some yes men judge to dismiss it on jurisdictional grounds. And still to this day, you can't give the evidence they went to the moon. The last director of Roscosmos, I can't, like Dmitry, whatever, something Medvedev, he was outgoing. He's on state media. Like it or not, Russia has state media. He's on state media, and one of the interviewers said, "Hey, after your 15-something years, better part of almost, a decade and a half of running the world's best space program, all the propaganda, laying it thick, what do you want all the little boys and girls to know? What's the biggest takeaway?" He said, "Well, all the little boys and girls, I want you to know that America never landed on the moon. There's no evidence they did so." That's on state TV. It wasn't like some sort of outlet where someone would say, "Oh, it was a shock jock. It was a parody skit. It was just being silly or something like that. He was trolling, No, this was state-run TV. His propagandized exit interview about how great the Russian space program is. His number one takeaway to tell all the little boys and girls at home watching: America never landed on the moon. There's no proof they did so.
How are we doing, ladies and gentlemen? Jin CBR1 reporting in with a question this time from 2 days ago.
Question from 2 days ago. What's up, Jim? Good to see you.
Yeah, nice. How you guys doing? I was having a discussion with a young man from England 2 days ago, and he seemed to be adamant that he uses the word we. We know the distances to the objects in the sky, the planets, via the methodology of using parallax. I stated that I couldn't accept the distance that they give us because we're not able to confirm whether or not that parallax is accurate because we can't go to confirm it. Now, am I wrong in holding that position? Can anybody help me? Here we go.
It's just parallax. He's talking about is a 6 month apart parallax.
Yeah, he was saying using parallax, because obviously viewing it from different angles, the position changes. But how can we get any accuracy from that?
Yeah, how do you know you're viewing it from different angles?
Thank you. This is what I was saying. He says, well, we use it here on Earth. I said, well, here on Earth, if you're using parallax here on Earth where we live, we can confirm, can't we? We can go and check whether or not your findings and measurements and whatever can be proven. Is that not right? Or am I wrong?
If we're talking, sorry, it might be off, but you might want to know anyway. It's not something I've done, but it's something I've heard, and it's called negative parallax. If we're talking about any measurement of parallax, maybe Yoda knows about negative parallax. Have you heard that term before?
Yeah, I have. Negative parallax. There's parallax, negative parallax, and no parallax. And according to the Hipparchus catalog, it's evenly divided 30, 30, 30.
That's wild. I didn't know that.
Yeah, Alan and Shane did a presentation on this. I talked to them about it. But the question is, those parallax values are not just like observed. The value comes out by from theory because you have this other thing, this stellar aberration. So stars, according to them guys, are only in apparent positions, right? And it's an apparent position because of if the Earth is in motion, that means the light's hitting it from an angle if it's going in one direction on the orbit. And then if it's going in the other direction, it's hitting it at a different angle. The same way, like if you were running in rain, right? If you're running sideways, it would be hitting you on the left if you're moving to the left. But if you're moving